The Buffalo Bills versus the Dallas Cowboys was supposed to be an NFL heavyweight battle, but turned out to be a heavyweight knockout punch. The Buffalo Bills won with a score of 31-10, and the Dallas Cowboys got obliterated, even though they were supposed to win. And I have a ton of different opinions regarding this game, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this. And the best way to start off this video is by talking about the Buffalo Bills, because they were the most impressive team of all the teams that played last night. It was a game where Josh Allen wasn't dominating this game, and it wasn't his fault. It was because James Cook was the reincarnation of Walter Payton and Barry Sanders combined. On the day, Josh Allen only threw the ball 15 times and got 94 yards and 1 touchdown. Meanwhile, James Cook had 25 carries for 179 yards and 1 touchdown, and he also had a couple pass catches as well. The leading receiver for the Buffalo Bills was Stephon Diggs, but he only had 48 yards, and it wasn't like they really had to use him that much. Now, coming into this game, my game plan thoughts for the Dallas Cowboys was to make Josh Allen beat the Dallas Cowboys. Because for myself, I viewed this Buffalo Bills team as not necessarily a great team, but talented team, because they have guys like Josh Allen, James Cook, and Stephon Diggs, but outside of them, it's not that great. And because Dallas has been so dominant defensively, I thought they'd be able to stuff the run pretty effectively. And so my thought process was, if you just double team Stephon Diggs, they're going to force Josh Allen to beat the Dallas Cowboys. And that necessarily did not ever happen. It never really felt like Josh Allen had to really take over the game. In fact, the Cowboys were actually better off when they were forcing Josh Allen to win this game for them. So in a sense, I guess my game plan would have worked out had James Cook not been what I said he was. I didn't know James Cook's game was like this, but hey, shout out to him, he was incredible. And the reason why James Cook was going was a combination of a couple things. For starters, the offensive line did a very good job of not having any holding penalties and opening up run lanes for James Cook to go through. James Cook also by himself had a lot to do with his success because, of course, the running back has to run the ball effectively. And lastly, I think Dallas has a lot to blame for their inability to stuff the run last night. I think those three reasons are exactly why this run game was so dominant. And when we analyze that last part I just said regarding the Dallas Cowboys defense, I think there's a reason why they were struggling. For starters, Dallas typically likes to run a lighter box. And what I mean by that is they don't really stuff the box with 9 or 8 guys. It's usually a 7 to 6 man box on almost every given snap. And I guess they didn't really think James Cook was going to dominate like this because they stuck to that game plan basically to the very end. And there wasn't any adjustments by Dan Quinn nor Mike McCarthy. It was the exact same fronts and looks over and over again. And of course, the Buffalo Bills were just able to dominate in the rushing lanes. Now, there's a really good reason why Dallas likes to do this, because if they're able to do that, they're able to put out more athletes on the field and they can stuff the pass game a lot easier. And typically, this is not an issue for Dallas because they have guys like Jonathan Hankins, Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, Dorrance Armstrong, and usually Leighton Van Der Esch, who are all very good at stuffing the run. But due to the Jonathan Hankins injury and the Leighton Van Der Esch injury, they're now working with guys like Marquise Bell and Damone Clark as their 2 starting linebackers, and they're starting a rookie in Mizey Smith who absolutely sucks. Marquise Bell and Damone Clark have each had a pretty solid season, all things given, but they're smaller guys. Damone Clark is the bigger of the two, but he's nothing special. Marquise Bell is a converted safety, so you'd imagine he's probably not the best at getting off of blocks. And while I don't know if they were necessarily targeting Marquise Bell in the run game, I also wouldn't be very shocked if it was the case, because it felt like over and over again Marquise Bell was getting absolutely destroyed in the running game. And that kind of sucks for Dallas because they don't really have the linebacker depth. In fact, I think they only have 3 natural linebackers who are currently healthy, because as I mentioned, their best linebacker in Leighton Van Der Esch is currently out for the season, and then before the season started, they had an injury to their 3rd round, what was looking like a very stud linebacker in DeMarvin Overshown, who's also going to be out for the season. So that eliminated arguably 2 of their starters, and it also eliminated 2 of their depth pieces. They brought in Rashaan Evans, but of course Rashaan Evans is nothing special. And you got to give credit to the Buffalo Bills. They knew exactly how to destroy the Dallas Cowboys linebacking core and honestly their defensive line. Whether it was stretching them out by going horizontally in the rushing attack or even going down their throats vertically, it was kind of a dominant performance from start to finish. And Dallas's inability to adjust to what was going on defensively was why James Cook was so good. A combination of James Cook masterclass, a genius game plan, and the Dallas Cowboys' inability to adjust to what was happening was exactly why this happened. And when we talk about the rest of the offense for the Buffalo Bills, there's really not a whole lot to talk about. Like I said, Josh Allen did his job, but to be honest with you, they could have threw the ball 0 times and probably still would have won relatively easily. Because defensively, Dallas was holding their own in the pass game, surprisingly. Now, before I move on to the Dallas Cowboys defense, I want to talk about one more thing that absolutely killed the Dallas Cowboys, especially early on in the game. Penalties. Dallas is currently the #1 team in penalties, and I have a feeling that is going to absolutely kick their ass in the playoffs. I would argue that 3 touchdown drives the Buffalo Bills had, which resulted in 21 points, probably should have only resulted in 3. On the first possession, the Dallas Cowboys had them on a 3rd down and long. They would ultimately not pick up the 3rd down, and it would have forced a field goal, but there was a DeMarcus Lawrence roughing the passer call. A few plays later, touchdown. Then I believe the second one, now don't quote me, it might have been the 3rd one, but I believe the second one, the Buffalo Bills would have a 3 and out and would send out their punt team, and after the Dallas Cowboys nearly blocked it, they had a roughing the kicker call. 15-yard penalty, first down Buffalo Buffalo would go on to score that drive. And then on another drive, it was 2nd and long. Dallas had a great chance to get off the field, and then they had a Jaron Curse unnecessary roughness call. That was also the drive that there was a very clear fumble that the Dallas Cowboys did not challenge. All 3 of those drives would have either been a punt or a field goal and would have resulted in probably less than a touchdown of points, but Dallas's inability to not cause penalties is the reason why they scored 21 points. And it's one of those things that's honestly just like one of those days in the office for the Dallas Cowboys. I feel like all 3 of those penalties were avoidable, but also I feel like they were kind of ticky-tacky. But ultimately, those are the rules of the law, and I do think they were the right calls. And it just felt like over and over again throughout the entire day, they just couldn't get away from harming themselves. Whether it was penalties on the offensive side of things, or defensively, or just not executing properly on either offense or defense, it was just kind of one of those days. Now, I think that comes back to a couple people. Dan Quinn and Mike McCarthy. This was a game where they had to flex their muscles a little bit and at least have the Dallas Cowboys come back in that second half to be competitive. But it just kind of felt like they gave up halfway through. And it's weird because I think Dallas had a very good chance to make a comeback in that second and third quarter. Because Dallas had a chance to put up points on the scoreboard when they had the ball last in the second quarter. They would also receive the ball to start the third quarter, and had they gone out there, scored a touchdown, made it 10-21 halftime, then they could have made it 21-17 had they scored on their next possession. But instead, nothing came from those drives. Now, I'm already going to hear a lot of people probably in this comment section or all over social media who are going to sit there and blame Dak Prescott. Now, listen, I might be a tad bit biased regarding Dak Prescott because I am a really big Dak fan. Not a Cowboys fan, but a big Dak fan. But it just felt like Dak had absolutely nothing offensively for him to do. I thought the play calling was really bad, which is really weird because McCarthy has been really good as of late. The offensive line couldn't block a 3-year-old out there. Simple stunts were just hurting this really experienced offensive line for the Dallas Cowboys, and it was really odd. It was so unexpected from this Dallas Cowboys team that I was sitting there absolutely shocked at how bad the O-line was doing. The receivers weren't running crisp enough routes to get open, and it was just one of those days. And I think the best way to sum up what happened this week was on the very first possession for the Dallas Cowboys, Brandon Cooks had a wide open deep shot, and Dak just completely missed it with an overthrow. And in my opinion, that was just kind of the story of the day for the Dallas Cowboys. A lack of execution, a lack of a game plan, a lack of just a will to go out there and win. It felt like Dallas knew they were going to get their asses kicked and they were just going to take it. Maybe this was just a situation where the Dallas Cowboys already knew the script, so they were just kind of not wanting to play this game. That might also explain their 49ers loss as well. But the good news for the Dallas Cowboys is this. It was a regular season game, and of course, it wasn't a playoff game. You're going to get healthier, you're going to get some guys back. Malik Hooker missed this week, and that definitely did hurt their safety cores. Jonathan Hankins will be the driving force for that rush attack moving forward. And offensively speaking, they're going to get better. Also, I do believe that there's like over 10 players with an illness on this team, so they'll get better as the week goes on as well. So if you're Dallas, the best thing you could do moving forward is just to read this game plan, read what happened against this Buffalo team, and move forward and learn from it. Whereas if you're Buffalo, you should ride this momentum throughout the rest of the season. I want to make a very bold statement here, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section below, but I think the Buffalo Bills might genuinely be the best team in the entire AFC conference. Yes, I know they're 8-6, and I know they have a very good chance of making the playoffs, but they could potentially also miss the playoffs. But I'm sorry, I think they're better than the Ravens. I think they're better than the Jaguars. They obviously beat the Chiefs. I think they're better than the Miami Dolphins. I don't think there's a single AFC team, whether it's a wildcard team or a divisional winner, who wants to face the Buffalo Bills. The Bills might be the scariest team in the entire NFL. And I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't be that shocked if they made a very deep run in this playoffs, which is super exciting if you ask me. As for Dallas, listen, Dallas is still a championship contender. They have a lot of holes they have to address, mainly on the defensive side of things. I think we're going to learn a lot about this Dallas Cowboys team over the course of the last 3 weeks. Dallas has the Miami Dolphins' amazing offense next week. Yet again, another road test for this Dallas Cowboys team. This will be a great chance for them to prove that they are a good team on the road. Miami obviously has a very dominant run game, so it's going to be a very good challenge for this Dallas Cowboys defense. If they suffer another blowout defeat to the Miami Dolphins, I think this team is no longer a contender. But then after Miami, you have the Detroit Lions, and the Detroit Lions love to run the football. That right there is going to be a tough game for Dallas. In my opinion, over the course of the next 2 weeks, you're going to have to stack the box a little bit more, and you might have to give up a little bit more in the pass game than what you might like, because you don't want to have what happened to you against James Cook and the Buffalo Bills happen to you again against Miami or the Detroit Lions or even Washington. But Cowboys fans and Buffalo Bills fans, you guys let me know what you thought of this game, as well as do you think your teams have any sort of legitimate chance to make a deep playoff run? And if you did enjoy the video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button because that would help me out a ton. But I love you guys. Peace.